listened with interest to Phillip talking about the local plan and how important it is to local people. I think one of the issues my name's Lyndsey, and obviously I'm involved in the Friends of the Freshney Valley, and we're here today at the Freshney Valley, and we've got nearly 3,000 members across social media platforms, and a lot of people with a real interest in the local plan. However, the local plan consultation is not particularly an open process for most people to engage in. So I fed back to the local authority about it. It's very difficult to use your online portal. The questions are very complex. I mean, as a group, we put a response together. It took us around 5 days to answer all of the questions accurately. So, how are North East Lincolnshire Council going to make this a document that people can engage with if what you're saying is it's so important? It's very difficult for the average person to go online and, Philip, have you been on the portal online and had a look at it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you'll agree then it's very un-user friendly. I mean, if you want people to engage in it and you want people to answer, what are you doing to make it easier for people to do that?
Well, this is a common format that's used by a lot of local authorities for feedback on the local plan. But there are also other routes that people can use. So, for example, they can phone up the council and get a copy of the relevant documents, and they can feedback that way. It's acceptable for them to send an email back to the council to spatial planning at nellinks.gov.uk with their views on it. So I've seen the emails that Lyndsey sent in and the responses we've got. So there are other routes. They can also pop into our local libraries across North East Lincolnshire and have a look at the documents there as well. And there are also quite a number of drop-in sessions that have been arranged between now and the 4th of November where people can go along and talk to officers about it and feedback through that route. So there are a whole range of different ways of responding to the local plan consultation, not just via the portal, which I admit can tend to be a bit clunky, but is the one that is being used by other local authorities up and down the country, and it's secure and ensures that people do see what all the relevant issues and questions are. People aren't expected to respond to every question if they don't want to. They can just respond to the bits that are of interest to them. So, people can dip in and out of it and respond to it in any way that they like.
I'd also like to know, Philip, obviously the target for housing is reduced to sort of I think it's 328 houses a year that North East Links Council are hoping to build. There's 5,000 houses at the moment in North East Lincolnshire with planning permission that aren't yet built. There's just under 2,000 empty homes. That's 7,000 potential properties. That's more than 10 years, 20 years supply of housing almost, in terms of your targets. Why are North East Lincolnshire Council supporting, although you say you clearly are supporting, a huge development on an area like this that's green, it's got a chalk stream, it's got blow wells. I mean, we're here today and you can constantly see people using it, walking the dogs, riding the horses and cycling. You talk in there about your carbon footprint and the strategies that you've got around environmental changes, but you don't mean it, because North East Lincolnshire Council put a bid in for £38 million for a road. Your councillors are really pushing this development. You've got your own website that's dedicated to this development. North East Lincolnshire Council are most definitely behind this huge development here. When there's 7,000 houses sat there with the potential to be built, I mean, your own documentation that you read on your North East Lincolnshire Council Tory page says that you would rather see brownfield sites built out before you move to greenfield. So why aren't you pursuing the 5,000 homes with planning permission, the 2,000 empty homes, before you move on to destroying forever green space that's so vital to people's well-being in the area?
Well, we are developing a brownfield site, so we're looking at housing on Alexandra Dock in the town centre. That's one of the projects in the town centre for regeneration. We're looking at the Western School site, which is another brownfield site, and in fact the local plan, as it stands now, does include housing on all potential brownfield sites in the town centre. We do want to try and develop those wherever possible, and we are looking at where we can bring empty homes back into use as well. The site that Lyndsey's talking about is currently in the local plan as a housing site. What we're trying to do is avoid building houses in existing built-up villages like Humberston and Waltham, New Waltham, because they don't have the same infrastructure to be able to support more housing. But this is all, the housing numbers and where we're going to have housing is all part of the consultation that we're looking for as part of review of the local plan. So all this is up in the air at the moment, and we look forward to hearing people's view on that, including Lyndsey's.
Can I take from that, Philip, then, if the overwhelming response from respondees about the local plan is to remove this site from the local plan, that will be removed from the local plan?
Well, we're looking at, obviously, that we look at the options, the review of the local plan. The Grimsby West site is currently part of the local plan. It is a privately owned site. It's not owned by the council. And it's up to the private developers to decide whether or not they want to bring any planning applications forward in connection with that site.
They're going to want to. I think my question was, if you're consulting and you say you're a listening council, and the majority of people who respond to your local plan consultation say, actually, we want to protect this site, it's beautiful, remove that, remove the road from the local plan, remove the large 3,500 house development, are you going to remove it from the local plan?
Well, as far as the road is concerned, of course, we didn't get the funding we wanted for the road. If the developers want to continue to develop the site, they'll have to provide suitable infrastructure. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the local private developers as to whether or not they want to develop the site. There's a need now under legislation for biodiversity net gain and for all sorts of other environmental controls. So any development that goes on any site across the whole of North East Lincolnshire has to be able to display biodiversity net gain and comply with a lot more stringent environmental legislation than there was back in 2018, which is absolutely correct. So all this would be a matter for the planning committee to consider if a planning application came forward, and that would also be an opportunity again for local residents to engage with the planning process, make sure they got their views in front of the planning committee.
So I think from what that Philip's saying is no, it will still be in the local plan. So I think this is part of our frustration.
Sorry, so I just have to come here. There's nothing we can do about that. The local plan is a statutory document. It's in the local plan now, whether we like it or not. But at the end of the day, it will be up to the planning committee how they take that forward should a planning application come in from the owners and developers of the site.
And I think the point is, Philip, you're asking for people to engage in this local plan review. People won't engage if they don't feel that their views are going to be listened to. So I think my question was specifically around if the overwhelming response is people don't want this. I mean, I don't hide the fact that I feel the last local plan consultation was very poor from North East Lincolnshire Council. It was very under the radar. We're doing our best on your behalf to promote this, get people to engage with it, as difficult as it is. If people do come out and say, actually, we want this development removing from the local plan, and there's no public support for it, my question was, will it be removed from the local plan? I don't think you answered that question. I think what you said was that will be up to planners, etc., and there'd be net gain and all of that. But what I said was, if people don't want the development, is their say enough to say this is coming out of the local plan, or is the local plan review really a pointless exercise from that perspective?
Well, from a legal viewpoint, it can't be removed from the local plan until the local plan review process is completed and the new local plan is adopted. But local people's views are very important. We will take that into account in terms of looking at housing provision in general across North East Lincolnshire. If we're looking at lower housing requirement numbers, clearly we won't need as many sites. So that, and as you rightly say, we've got a lot of sites which have still got to be built out yet, which have got planning consent. Some of them, I'm afraid, in not particularly good locations in terms of the infrastructure and facilities which are offered. So it'll be a matter of looking at how many houses we need, what the feedback is from the public, how the local economy is moving forward. All these things need to be taken into account. It's not right that I should be predetermining the outcome of the public consultation before we've actually had that public consultation.
I don't think that was what I was asking. Just as another question I think that people are concerned about than the local plan, is the consideration given to other infrastructure such as GPs, mental health support, and all of those other things that people find important. I mean, a lot of people at the moment can't get an appointment with the dentist, with the GP, and people aren't attracted to come and live here to do those sort of jobs. So your plan is quite clear. It's economic. You're trying to increase the economy by getting people to move here and live places like this. But actually, is that really a good idea if people that live here already can't access basic services? I don't think that's particularly covered in the local plan. Will it be?
Well, hopefully that's the sort of thing people will respond about. But I mean, that's a national issue about access to those sort of things, and clearly needs to be something that we think about. I mean, the advantage of building full new communities in terms of new housing is that you can build all those facilities into a new community, new housing community. You can make sure that all the infrastructure is there. And the problem with building more houses in the existing built-up villages around the southern arc of North East Lincolnshire, which is what's been happening over the past 10 or 15 years, is that those facilities aren't there to the same extent. But Lyndsey's right. I mean, we are trying to promote the local economy and encourage more people to come and live here, because we're looking at more jobs coming into the area around ports, logistics, renewable sector and the free ports. And what we want to try and do is make sure that people who take those jobs are local people wherever possible. But if people are moving into the area, are taking those jobs from outside the area, we want to try and encourage them to move here and live here, so that they're spending the money in the local economy, creating demand, paying taxes here, paying council tax, so that North East Lincolnshire gets the benefit from their employment, rather than them living in Lincoln or Gainsborough or Louth and them spending the money there.
I think North East Lincolnshire Council need to attract their own officers to live here. I mean, I met with a couple of officers of North East Lincolnshire Council and talked to them about, you know, would the Grimsby West development encourage you to live here, because they all commuted, and they actually said no, it wouldn't. So I don't think that building expensive houses that are out of the affordability of the people that live in Grimsby is the answer. I mean, the other thing I want to ask about the local plan is, will it have specific consideration to affordable houses, social housing? I mean, most young people in Grimsby at the moment can't afford to buy a house. Affordable housing is a fallacy, really, because it isn't actually that affordable for most people. And most developments around here, and I've done some research, tend to pay the council a sum of money to forgo that responsibility to have affordable housing, because no one can afford it, so they don't sell. You know, I think people in Grimsby are interested in being able to afford a house at the moment. Mortgage rates are going up, people can't save for large deposits. Building large 4-bed detached houses on a site like Grimsby West is not what the local plan really should focus on. It should be a local plan for local people, and people in Grimsby need more affordable, really affordable homes. They need an increase in social housing. Lincolnshire Housing Partnership's got a waiting list of over 4,000 people with no plans to build any more homes. You know, how will the local plan address that? It seems very focused on large developments such as this, building large expensive houses, and I just think it's not a local plan for local people.
No, I mean, Lyndsey's absolutely right. I mean, we do need to make sure there's housing in the local plan that suits everybody. I just reminded people at this stage, the local plan isn't just about housing, it's about a whole range of different land uses. But we do need to make sure that there's the housing that is suitable for local people. I mean, there is a requirement now in all housing developments that go ahead, regardless of what type of housing, that there is some social housing provision, either within those, usually 10 or 20%, depending on the viability. Quite often, houses are being built in new developments, which are then handed over to social landlords to enable them to rent out. If that's not happening, the developer has to provide a sum of money to build social housing somewhere else, which again is handed over to a social landlord to be rented out. And of course, there's a requirement for some affordable housing in there. You can have a debate about what affordable is, and I think that's a legitimate question. But yes, basically there's a section in this document, in this scoping and issues paper, that talks about what people are expecting in terms of the different types of housing, the range of housing, and how we should provide enough housing for all people across all income brackets, and it's important that we do that.
Will there be a commitment as well, Philip, to look at the type of housing in terms of the environment? So I sometimes find that North East Lincolnshire Council are a bit slow to the game, and obviously as times are changing, there's a requirement for electric cars, so electric charging points, solar panels, all of those sort of things, different types of heating systems. You know, at what point are North East Lincolnshire Council going to start to work with developers to make sure that all of that's included? Will that be something that you consider as part of the local plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got, as I mentioned earlier, we've got our low carbon roadmap now for North East Lincolnshire. One of the requirements is now on all new developments that they include electric car charging points, and of course new legislation is coming now through from government that all planning authorities have to implement about making all new properties more eco-friendly. We've also got quite a bit of grant money now available, not to do directly with local plan, but grant money available for people to be able to access, to be able to implement environmental improvement schemes in their own homes, around insulation, etc., or installation of solar panels. So there is grant money available for that. But there is in planning legislation now it's much more stringent in terms of what is required with building new houses to make them environmentally friendly. It's more difficult, of course, at retrofitting those facilities to existing housing.